Okay, here we are again, and we are going to talk about the Last Supper. One thing that I want to make sure that you know is that the Gospels are 4 books of the Bible: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And in each of the books, there are similarities, like there'll be more than one story of Jesus' birth. There's more than one story of his death. There's more than one story of the Last Supper. But each of them tells something a little bit different. And part of that is that these were written by people from different backgrounds, different perspectives. They weren't from the same nationality. And so they see different things. The Gospel of John is the one that we're going to read today about the story of Jesus washing his disciples' feet. It's a powerful gesture on Jesus' part and has become a significant part of Holy Week services in many Christian traditions. In Bible times, people's feet were dirty from walking over dirt roads that were also occupied by people and animals. Foot washing was a necessary custom for cleanliness. By washing his disciples' feet, Jesus demonstrated both humility and a deep love for his disciples. And it can be difficult for us to understand and grasp the importance of Jesus' act of washing his disciples' feet before they shared the Passover meal. Our feet don't need to be cleaned when we arrive at a friend's house. In Jesus' time, dry and dusty roads were what people traveled on, and some had sandals and some were barefoot. So imagine how and when your feet get dirty and need extra scrubbing. My guess is it's when you guys are playing outside without your shoes on. And then you come to the house and your parents say, "Oh no, we're going to wash them feet before you come in." Beyond that, Jesus washed their feet to show his love for them. Think of big and small ways to show your love for others by serving them. So that's kind of what our story is today. So we have our family page, we have our coloring page, we have our super search page, and we have our leaflets. And again, remember, my leaflets are a little different than yours. I can't remember where I set the leaflets, so I'll find them eventually. Oh, and then we have our craft. This is our wood craft today, so make sure that you have that ready to go, and you'll probably need some of your parents' help, but we'll get to that. So let's start out with a prayer, and we'll get into the story. Dearest friend, Jesus, your love surprised the disciples when you washed their feet. Your love surprises us too. Help us to learn to be like you and to love our friends by serving them. Amen. So today's story has 3 parts. It takes place on a special holiday called Passover. Now, during Passover, Jewish people traveled to be with family and share special meal together. So you can think of Passover like what we think of Easter or Christmas or Thanksgiving. We go to our family's house to celebrate with them. This story is called the Last Supper because it's the last time Jesus shares a meal with his friends before he is killed. He wants to remember their time together. So make sure that you understand that, and giving the dogs a little treat here so they behave while I'm reading for you. So think about that while I'm reading the story. So here's the Last Supper. Jesus knew that the time had come for him to leave this world. He wanted to share his last Passover meal together with his 12 closest friends, the disciples. Jesus loved his friends and wanted to show them his love in a very caring way. As the friends got ready for the meal, Jesus put water in a large bowl and knelt down on the floor. He wanted to wash the feet of each disciple. When it came to Peter's turn, Peter said, "Jesus, you will wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "Peter, you don't understand what I am doing now, but you will later." Peter loved Jesus so much that he said, "Then don't just wash my feet, but wash my head and hands also." Peter wanted to be as close to Jesus as possible. As they were eating, Jesus sadly told his disciples, "Soon one of you will betray me." One of you will tell people you don't like me where I am, don't like where I am, so they will take me away. This upset the disciples, and each one said, It's not me you're talking about, is it, Lord? Then Judas said this, when Judas said this, Jesus gently replied, Yes, Judas, you will betray me. Then Jesus picked up a loaf of bread, he blessed it, and gave it to each of his friends, saying, Take this bread and eat it. This is my body. Then Jesus picked up the cup of wine and gave thanks and said, Drink this. This is the blood which I must give up so that the sins of people may be forgiven. I want to read that part again because I want you to listen and hear that, because this is what Pastor Matt says every Sunday when we have communion. Not these exact words, but this is where the Last Supper came from, and this is where that part comes from that we do at communion time. So let me read that part again. Then Jesus picked up the loaf of bread and blessed it and gave it to some of his friends, saying, Take this bread and eat it. This is my body. Then Jesus picked up the cup of wine and gave thanks and said, Drink this. This is the blood which I must give up so the sins of people may be forgiven. When the meal was over, Jesus and his friends went to a place called Mount Olives. Jesus then sadly said, Soon you will all leave me. Peter felt bad. Even if all the others leave you, I won't, he said. Jesus looked at his dear friend and said quietly, Before the sun rises, you will pretend you don't know me 3 times. Peter said, Jesus, I love you so much to ever do that to you. All of the other disciples said the same thing. This was very significant, and this is a very important act and story, or not really story, but important path that the disciples take. First, there were 3 things, remember? There's 3 parts to this story. First, they had the supper, and Jesus washed their feet. Second, he told the disciples somebody was going to betray him. And that was Judas. And third, Peter, one of his most trusted disciples, would deny him 3 times before the sunrise. In some stories it says, you will deny me 3 times before the cock crows, which is a rooster. So that is very significant. So let us keep going, and our Bible verse says, having loved his own who were here in the world, he loved them to the end. John 13:1. So let me read that again. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. So Jesus loved his disciples more than anything else. And so it was very important that he washed the feet and that he was with them for the last time, because it was very important for Jesus to do that, to show his love to the disciples. So let's start with our leaflet. And this says, Jesus shows us, walking in Jesus' shoes. Jesus shows us how to love others by serving them. He washed his disciples' feet as a sign of his love. Trace 1 foot on the leaflet. You will need to remove a shoe first. Inside the footprint, write ideas of how you can serve others and show them the love of God. So, right here, take your shoes and socks off, copy your foot here, trace it, and then inside that foot, put ways that you can show people that you love them and help them. And then talk about it with your family. So on this side, there's a few things that you can learn about the Passover and some things of how you can try and live the Passover and make things good.